Well, YouTubers and bit shooters, Western Pobo Savage here. Very disappointing. But it's time to get here. It's time to get on. Get on the go. Integrative medicine. Where the fuck do I start? This is genuinely aggravating, though. It is a genuinely aggravating fucking topic. Where in the fuck do I begin? It's another controversy. Let's get into why that is. First question. Somebody, what is integrative medicine? For those who don't know, they can finally ask that. Perfectly good question. And I will tell you with the best answer I could possibly give you. It is basically when you use so-called, quote-unquote, alternative medicines as adjuncts or complements to modern medicine. Second question is, what is the alternative medicine used to complement the mainstream medicines? The answer to that is most often, it just most often tends to be fucking quack! What do I mean by fucking quack? Oh, let me count the bullshitteries right the fuck here in this massive fuckuckery. Homeopathic, chiropractic nonsense, acupuncture, energy medicine, color therapy, crystal healing, gua sha. It might be fucking that up, but I don't care. It's basically coin rubbing until your flesh makes red streaks and patterns. Magnet therapy, electrohomeopathy, faith healing, feng shui, hair analysis as a diagnosis for diseases and nutritional deficiency, which is nonsense. It has uses, but that ain't one of them. Hydrotherapy, cupping therapies, light therapy, psychic surgery, which is bullshit. You already can tell. Radionics therapies, bloodletting, speleotherapy, which is basically fucking breathing inside a motherfucking goddamn cave is a goddamn fucking therapy. Fucking usage of certain immune stimulants as cures or panaceas, which is a fucking load of shit when there is severely limited data on them, or no data in any of them in regards to the rather extravagant claims these potentially good agents have put upon them. It needs to be fixed and needs to start soon, if not now. There are some immune boosting and regulating agents out there in the plant kingdom and even animal kingdom if you consider colostrum as a food, unless you're a fucking vegan. With promising preliminary, preclinical, and even clinical evidence. Although in some cases, in many cases, the clinical tends to be a little short-handed and needs to be built on. Because we need the amounts of proof to be bigger, larger, huger, way bigger in number. The amounts of proof, and we need more concrete answers. The regulations on real fucking doctors and pharmaceutical also has the same or worse impact on those who are trying to take from these branches from trying to make actual alternatives to be used that are actually different medicines based from these different agents, like taking certain herbs with ethnobotany and then learn how to make these concentrates and then standardize them based on the active, the pharmacological evidence and the evidence on the anatomy of humans and other animals. Standardize into the most active shit, secondary most active, most active first, secondary most active. Well, first off, you got to make the concentrates, but then you got to make sure there's no, mycotoxins, aflatoxins, no botulism toxins, no pesticide, herbicide residues of any of those, because that's ideal. Don't knock it. Just bear with me here. No heavy metals, no like no mercury, no lead, no arsenic, or any of these, and none of these nasty impurities. And then standardize the most active shit based on what we find in evidence first, second to most active compounds secondly, cofactors thirdly, and everything else that has a positive benefit be just after that. And those type of extract concentrate standardizations after testing for purity. That's what we need to do, and then we need to fucking clinically trial them. It hurts, but the over-regulatory monstrosity on doctors and shit like that also hurts people that are doing these efforts as well. Hence why I advocate fighting that shit and actually promoting this shit, and then actually helping heal the system. Because we can bring it back, these things like I talked about in the herbalism video, bring it back as a real science it was supposed to be. For example, I gave it the description box in the previous video, which I will link, and you can go to that description box and look for yourself. It's called it's under the category, under list of Tangshan pill formulas. The Tangshan pill formula. My criticism is it needed to be purity tested, standardized concentrates to mix in that same ratio to actually have a better effect. That's what I say, and I'm going to stick with it, because in that study they just used the fucking powdered herb. That way they can ensure safety and purity before blending to actually make this shit. You know, and this could be used as adjunct to people with kidney medicine drugs to actually help them improve the symptoms. Some of the shit got a little better, while, others, part of while in the placebo group that was just taking the drugs, the symptoms stopped getting worse. Just got at a standstill, stopped progressing. While the others started slowly, and certain markers get better. In certain markers, which is good. Real fucking good. But that kind of shit, well, they ain't gonna pass safety standards, it ain't gonna pass these regulations, it'll never work, which is a fucking problem. People that are trying to get this shit out there in Asia, India, United States, Canada, or Canada if you want to be more polite, in all different regions, different spots in Europe, different regions of the fucking world that actually are studying this shit behind the scenes or getting clinical trials, like Tangshan I gave example as an adjunct to the conventional kidney drug medicine. Pharmaceutical, drugs for their kidney disease, type 2 diabetic kidney disease, from type 2 and type 2 diabetes derived that caused it. Fucking thing is, rigorous analysis, rigorous study of shit, and including my criticism, even though it showed good evidence. That's my criticism. I would think if it's that good, then he would have done better. But the point is, that shit actually started slowly reversing or improving some of the markers and the symptoms in the patients. Now, there was about 17 patients out of the big group of them. It was about maybe 17 adverse reactions out of all of them. They need to be factored into. So we can minimize that shit. Lower them those adverse effects, those negative effects, like in those about 17 patients in that trial, as low as possible. So it'll be less than that out of a big trial, another big trial. This kind of shit needs to be started. This shit needs to be, fixed bad, all across the board. I will admit that victims that get duped by these examples of fakery and fucking evil is understandable. It's due to the fear of losing someone you deeply love. It happens to be another human being. If you're not ready to embrace death just yet, that's another one. Or if you're trying to find something for your animal that is, in many cases, your adopted offspring of another species, your adopted child that happens to be your, that most people just call a pet. Some people, that's their adopted children. Panther is my adopted son in this case. I know exactly, I understand and I empathize, but we have to understand all these other things don't fucking work. And we need to do something about these monstrosities and these pieces of shit. For example, we need to emphasize on changing what alternative medicine, that we need to change on changing what from what from the current what alternative medicine is currently by definition currently is to what it should be. Let me explain. For example, the quote-unquote alternative medicine definition should ideally mean an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs, surgery, chemo, whatever modern medical procedures at work, as long as they have scientific evidence to support them. That's the ideal definition of alternative medicine, because it's just a medicine that's alternative to the mainstream shit, as long as it's got scientific evidence. That's what it should be, but it's not. It's a gateway to fucktardery and monstrous quackery and thieving and stealing and fraud. That's why I personally would like to see personally, as vicious as I'm going to sound, I would like to see Jim Humble burned on a stake, personally, for the fucking people, for his MMS bullshit that died from it. There was actually, people started, the FBI is looking for them. Cops all over the place, certain agencies are looking for the motherfucker now. Horrible as I'm going to sound, maybe he'll just croak and soon enough, and then maybe this shit'll stop, and his death will be, his fucking passing. And if there's a pit of hell, may I see him in it when I go down there, and fucking he would be my personal torture victim. I fucking hate pieces of shit like that, and I'm not taking back what I say. Alright? I know I'm a little emotional here, but god damn it. Monsters like this motherfucker make me, and you wonder why I can sound like a psycho sometimes when I get mad. Some people that talk to me online and in real life, you wonder why I can sound like a fucking psycho sometimes. Fuckers like this in the world make me feel like one. It's just the anger I have for these fucking wretches. Subhuman sodomite spawns. Fucking pieces of shit. Just shove this homeopathic bleach solution up your kid's ass and it'll cure autism. You know, folks, as fucked up as I'm going to sound, it's people like this guy, these people, I can understand why people might like Hans Hermann Holpe's physical removal advocacy. When you see fuckers like this in the world, it kind of makes me not blame them for liking the guy's idea. Because in these monsters, that actually would be helpful. I hate to say, sound fucked up, but I can understand it. That's going to give me a lot of controversy. Don't get me started. But I can understand why people, when it comes to these monsters in this world that run like this in human skin, I can understand why people might like his idea and that concept. Oh, I hate that motherfucker. I hate him. I hate that son of a bitch. Sorry. It's just infuriating. It's infuriating as fuck. Another instance. If you use the term complementary medicine, I already said this. You've basically narrowed it down to a few areas. What we could do to stop herbalism from dying as a scientific, a potentially scientific study field. It started out as one because it was a branch of botany. I've established this in the past. And pharmacognosy, clinical trialing, and modern basic, adding these types of courses to herbalism. Basically, if you were to add So we'll read back and read that off the video description. Where did my heart go? When did it lose the way? How did I let you slip away? Why is it so hard to say? Fuck. Sorry, taking me a moment here, but I'm getting to the point. Just hold your panties, folks. We need to add pharmacognosy courses, clinical trial courses, basic chemistry courses to teach how to make extract concentrates, to purify them or test for purity, and standardize the right components and everything else secondary after them for the maximum potential. Dietetics courses how to find clinical evidence in favor of said herbs and other materials that herbalists can discuss, and courses on how to fund said clinical trials, and to master herbalism degrees and to make them more scientifically again, and weed out the hucksters, the quacks, the snake oil shills, and also fight the corporate and political corruption in healthcare that gave rise to the big pharma conspiracy theory. That's just one. That's one example, and that's how you're gonna have to do it. This is just how it's gonna have to be done. Number two, did you know electrotherapy that's been around for at least a couple hundred years? Did you know that it's actually coming back in behind the scenes? It has potential in killing cancers. It actually has. You can actually electrocute cancers, or you can actually do a lot of stuff with it. It's very interesting. I recommend checking it out. I'll link it in the description below. That's an alternative medicine because it has medicine potential and it's an alternative to conventional stuff. Alternative medicine should just be a gateway to new medicines. That's all it should be. It should be an alternative. It should be an alternative to what's conventional at the time, and be a gateway to making new conventional medicines. That is what, and as long as it's alternatives to what's conventional based on scientific evidence, and essentially be serve as a way to make new conventional medicines, new medicines. That's what the definition of alternative medicine should be. And the complementary is complementing conventional medicines with these new systems that can potentially become conventional medicines in themselves or in conventional add-ons. You know, this should be what alternative and complementary or integrative medicines should be about. This is what the definitions should be. These are just demonstrations of the example I'm giving out. To fight these monsters that dupe people and poison them. And don't even get me started on Kent Hovind. Kent Hovind selling that fucking bullshit has made more fucking atheists come out and fucking hate on religion like no fucking tomorrow. Alright, you know what I mean? I can't really say I blame them. Can't say I blame you guys. That's not even considered in the fucking pedo rings that most people go into denialism about, that's in the fucking churches of different religions, especially. Okay, I'm not going to go into the Abrahamic 3 has 3 examples. All the Abrahamic 3. But, oh yeah. So you got those. Now, the starting of this process, I will start on myself by confessing to a load of shit mistake I made in my channel early on. I did have the bottle to prove it, but if you go back in the video itself, you'll find it. Not justifying what I did. It was a load of bullshit mistake on me, completely bullshit. On me, and I'm owning up to it, and I'm saying sorry to the audience. I'm saying sorry to you guys, because you deserve an apology. You deserve me owning up to it, because it was a load of shit mistake on my part. It's my DIY herbal pills how-to and recipe, first recipe, and I used a tincture of a mixture called Essiac. And I used the tincture without fully, thoroughly double-checking the research and how these compounds in these certain herbs that make this mixture work. Why? That tincture was practically worthless. I'm explaining. Well, it had all the other 3 herbs suspended in it, but the mucilage and the other components that are from native to the, the slippery elm, worthless. Absolutely fucking worthless. Why? I'll explain how. Now we'll look. For one, a tincture, an alcohol water tincture is not going to be able to hold all that. While on the other hand, using a glycerite, which is an extract of a hot water decoction, and another extraction using glycerin to get the remain out, and if you use CO2 extracting of everything else, and then soaking it in glycerin to get what's left over out. Now, you getting, in the case of sheep sorrel, rhubarb, and burdock roots, getting the oxalic acid and oxalate salts out would be important. Testing for other kinds of any other kinds of undesirables that are not to be in there, that have no effect or actually could be, or any kind of toxins or anything like that, because they could be potentially toxic. That's why people with kidney disease have to go on a low oxalate diet, because it can block the kidney channels. But now these extract, if they did extracts like this and then concentrate them, CO2 and ethanol extract for sheep sorrel, slippery elm, and rhubarb, because they can actually be done that way: CO2, water, and ethanol. The glycerin thing I was getting into should actually more suitable for mucilage herbs. I have this gel-like fibrous gel-like substance called mucilage. Marshmallow root has this mucilage of marshmallows. What people in ancient Europe chewed on. They used it for kidney, urinary troubles, urinary tract infections, urinary problems, troubles you taking a piss, kidney issues, before they tried to stop them from getting more severe, and used plenty of water. And if it was too much of a drying, which is what we call too much internal drying, out the kidneys, I guess you would say TCM and Ayurveda or some shit. Nowadays we call too much of a diuretic action. You chew on a little licorice to kind of balance that a little bit, or something else like that. But thing is, that was used to make getting these mucilage and other goods out of extracted with hot water out of that, and then adding egg white and sugar and other things to it, makes marshmallow candies, the stuff we fucking adore. Or if you wanted to add gelatin and egg white proteins along with this extract using glycerin soluble and hot water extract of marshmallow concentrated. It's got that mucilage in it. That mucilage is what it's also soothing, and it's in herbal teas like throat coat, which is good for sore throat. I've drank it, but I also make sure I have like something that's diuretic, so I don't, I don't have a problem with it, but it's a good preventative. That's how I look at it. But slippery elm needs to be extracted with water, CO2, and glycerin, because of the mucilage properties, and then concentrated in 10-to-1. They actually sell that in different places. If I was to ever make that pill recipe again, which I may one day, that's another piece of criticism I need to put on myself. 2 other pieces of criticism. In that recipe, I said you could use astragalus powder in its place. Well, use astragalus. If you were to do so, you would be better if it was concentrate extract in its place, just like with the turkey tail fungus I used. You can actually find out more about that research into that by Paul Stamets. There's a video about his breast cancer with his mother and some other areas. Paul Stamets, the mycologist, he actually sells a mycelium of that shit. There's amazing properties in medicinal mushrooms for the immune system. There's research coming out about it going on and on, including ones ancient Chinese used, a couple Native Americans have used, known as the agarikon and their strains of Poraya. There's all kinds of shit out there. They've even had chaga, but they never used it as herbal tea in thousands of years they've known about it. It was just used to help. It was used to carry flaming coals to keep that lit and flame. That inner yellow-orange part of the inside, the yellow-orange inside of the chaga mushroom was used to put coals in that would keep it lit a fire, and a little straw on that to transfer fire from one burning pile to another. It was also used to help start fires. The Ainu people in Russia, there's two. They're in Russia and Japan. The Russian ones, they drank that as herbal tea, and it was used as it was a medicine by pharmacists in 1600s in Russia. So. But I'm sorry, but if I was to use that recipe again, I would have to replace the curcuminoids. I mean the turmeric with curcuminoid extracts with piperine, which they sell in capsules out the ass already. And I would use, instead of astragalus powder, I would use the extract concentrate powder that they have available for astragalus. Because that way I actually know I'm getting a measurable amount of this stuff per capsule. There's no homeopathy, there's none of that bullshit in it. So I'm using that criticism on myself. And I'm sorry I did that. I made that mistake. I'm not justifying myself, but I was so excited to say, hey, I get to show somebody what I can do. Get to show people what I can do. Some new skill I learned. I want to share it with people. And I didn't think through like I should have, and I'm sorry. I'm owning up to that, and I'm apologizing. And it's inexcusable for me to have done that. It's inexcusable. And I'm sorry. I am. I apologize. I'm sorry. But if I was to ever use the Essiac formula take on it, I would have to get the extract concentrates, which they do have. The only thing is I'd have to go to Alibaba for the sheep sorrel concentrate, which they standardize, and then they get the other bullshit out and make sure it's just all the good stuff, the active stuff and stuff like that in the concentrates. They do that. They have that. They do that now. And they have them. If I was to, I would have to use a certain ratio of those, gram per gram equivalents, or whatever it is, and then I would put them together that way. And then I would use that, put that mixture up somewhere in a cool, dark place away from light and heat, in a cobalt blue bottle somewhere, insulate around it, and then I would put insulating wrapping around it and label the lid, and then I would take it out to use, and then I would use it in that recipe like so, mixed with the other powders. If I was to do that again, I'd have to, if I do it, I'd do it live, and I'll show you what to do. The rhubarb and burdock roots have medicinal benefit. They have nutritional properties, including the anthraquinones, aloe-emodin, and rhein. I will say that, which is something. It's just two anthraquinone acid that's also in an herb I tend to use all the time called ho shou wu. I'll get into that one soon enough, because I planned on doing this one for a really long time. Now that I've admitted to a fuck up there, showed you what I would need to do instead, and if I ever make that recipe again and I do it right, I will show you. But it's a recipe. It's just a recipe. It's an info. It's knowledge. Do not do anything. Go to a doctor before trying it, because it's this. None of this is medical. None of that was medical advice. This whole discussion is honestly to push for medical science to shine again, and healthcare to actually shine like it's supposed to. Get rid of the quack. I started with a quack mistake I myself made early on. I'm just using myself as a template. If anything you can take from me is learn to admit your fuck-ups and move forward and better yourself. Anything. That's why I'm using myself as a template here. To actually practice what the fuck I preach and better my behavior. Better my, and not make mistakes like that again. Not make fuck-ups like that again. I get goosebumps admitting that shit because it's not comfortable. It's not. Moving on from my admittance to a mistake and a faulty fuck-up from a previous video and an earlier point in my life. Hopefully you can understand why I always emphasize on the, hey, this is just me showing you info, how to do something, or something like that. This is not medical advice. Go to a doctor. They say, ask them if you can try this shit after first read up on it, then go to ask a doctor or other healthcare professional if you can try this, and have access to their guidance and their help, and whenever if you need it, something goes wrong as soon as possible. And they say yes, then you get allergy tested. If they don't, if the first one says no, fine, go to multiple healthcare professionals like MDs, physicians, etc., etc., etc. And then, if they all say no, don't fucking do shit. If they say, some say no, some say yes. If more of them say no, don't do nothing. If more of them say yes than those that say no, go ahead and get allergy tested. Sensitivity and an allergy test. You need both of those. You need both. You also need to, yeah. Now, that's before trying any of these recipes and all this other shit that I have in video forms and stuff, because none of this, this Tulsi, this holy basil and shit, or that I use in my favorite brew of tea. It's got adaptogenic, polyphenol, and blood thinning and blood sugar lowering qualities and blood sugar normalizing qualities and other kind of things like that. So it can actually amplify blood sugar drugs, blood pressure meds, and other things like that. So you've got to be fucking careful with shit like this. I don't take none of that, so it's fine with me. So it doesn't affect me at all. But you've got to be certain. And you've got to have a healthcare professional. They have the science. They got the technology to help you. They have the fucking tech to help you. If you don't fucking do it, if you don't heed the only medical advice and warning I just got through giving you, I'm not responsible for you being a fucking retard, okay? I just admitted my moment of fucktardery just for you guys to learn to do better than. You'd be disappointing me if you didn't listen to this at least, and to learn what I'm trying to show here. Good night. This was Shrimp Pulled by Savage, signing out.